And we have 7 minutes. I'll recognize Representative Sarah Draper, who is probably one of the best attending non-members of our committee, who has asked to just make a couple of comments. And Representative Draper, if you can keep it as brief as possible. We're at 5:08 by my watch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate the opportunity to present some information and present an alternative point of view to the information that we have heard today. So I won't rebut everything. I won't do a point-by-point rebuttal. We certainly don't have time to that, but I would like to speak to some overarching themes that we heard today. So the first is this issue of voter roll accuracy. What does it mean that a voter roll is accurate? Does it mean that a person dies and they're immediately taken off the voter roll the very next day? Is that the standard for accuracy? A lot of the themes that I heard in the presentations this afternoon was this emphasis on when a person is no longer eligible to vote, that they be removed immediately. But I would suggest to that there's another side to the coin. Accuracy is also, if a person is eligible to vote, they shouldn't be taken off the voter rolls, right? It is both sides. It's that balance. And from much of the aggressive postures that are being put on these voter challenges and voter list maintenance, it emphasized the part of accuracy that takes people off the rolls that shouldn't be on the rolls, but it pays no regard and no concern for people who should be on the rolls and might erroneously been taken off. So we have to preserve that balance. We have to make sure that people that are eligible to vote remain on the rolls. I think part of the emphasis on only focusing on one side is a misunderstanding or perhaps a ignoring of the interplay between state law and federal law. Because our federal law emphasizes the importance of keeping names on the rolls when we can't definitely see that they're no longer eligible to vote. So if there's an open question as to whether somebody is eligible to vote, our federal laws say that person has to remain on the rolls for many years. I think it's 9 years, up to 9 years, unless there is definite specific data that shows that they are no longer eligible, including them reaching out to their county and saying, hey, I don't want to be registered here anymore because I have moved, right? So unless they have that specific data, our federal laws emphasize that there must be that balance between keeping the rolls, taking people off the rolls, but also keeping people on the rolls who have registered to vote and have not definitely said that they no longer want to be voting in that jurisdiction. To the point about voter roll lists at over 100% registration and why that might be in large counties. It's a shocking number to see, right? 103%, whatever it is. But that's easily explainable. First of all, Georgia we're an incredibly high rate of voter registration. We're very proud of that. I think right now it's between 93 and 96% of all eligible voters are registered. But when people move, that creates another registration, right? And because of these federal laws that say that people have to remain on the rolls for a certain amount of time unless they tell their county that they've moved, you're going to see additional people on the rolls and perhaps an over-registration rate. It doesn't mean anything nefarious is happening. No, that is the interplay of state and federal law that balances people's right to vote with the need to maintain accurate voter rolls. So let's talk specifically about NCOA data, because I heard a lot about NCO data this evening, and the presenters emphasized that the NCO data was a great marker for voter eligibility. But using NCO data specifically, it's not accurate. It doesn't work. It's actually a fatal flaw because on its own, it isn't sufficient information to show that somebody is eligible or not eligible to vote. And let me explain why. First, there's no legal requirement for individuals or families to complete the NCOA form. Accordingly, there is no time-based deadlines for the number of days before or after a move during which an individual may file an NCOA. And second, people file or do not file NCOAs for various reasons, independent of their voter registration status. So it could be that they are doing their secondary education out of state. They might have a military deployment. They might have a non-permanent stay in a medical institution somewhere else. There's work-related reasons. So there's lots of reasons why somebody may or may not file an NCOA that has nothing to do with their voter registration and their jurisdiction of voting. make this comparison. It's like seeing somebody leave early for work and then immediately concluding that they've quit their job, right? Without considering any of the other possibilities, like that they left for a family emergency, or they were sick, or they were simply working remotely that day. So we can't misuse the NCOA data set because, again, there's no statutory requirement that they have to fill out that NCOA form. And, you know, by putting so much emphasis on this NCOA information, we are fabricating false narratives about Georgia voters, and I think that's reckless and it's unacceptable. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Mr. Davis's presentation. There were a lot of technical definitions in there, a lot of data, a lot of, you know, code, but what I want to emphasize is it's a thimble of truth mixed with a pile of debunked conspiracy theories and profoundly incorrect and false claims. Okay? The arguments, that's how conspiracy theories work. The arguments that Mr. Davis is making are not new. We have seen these types of claims with the multiple and disproved conspiracy theories from Dominion voting systems, most notably with the $787 million settlement between Fox News and Dominion voting systems in 2023. Not only have each of these claims been thoroughly litigated and disproven, but there is also considerable technical documentation debunking each of these claims. So those are not serious concerns. They're not serious presentations. And I would submit they're attempts to peddle proven lies and misinformation to advance presenters' and colleagues' personal agendas and political ambitions.
Okay, Representative, we're at 5:15. My hard cutoff, so if you'll wrap up in about 30 seconds, please.
Yes, I will close with this. I just want to thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to give the other side of this. And I would just like to say that we have lots of people who are passionate about this topic. In fact, they show up at meetings, whether in the morning, afternoon, evening. They come to every meeting. And if they're lucky, they receive 2 minutes of time to speak. So I would ask humbly, Mr. Chairman, that if we do one of these types of presentations again, that we on the front end invite all the different perspectives to the table so that we can have one hearing where we can see where all perspectives are represented. With that, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you for your comments. And I want to thank everybody for being here, the people who spoke and presented today. We do appreciate your time, your effort. I know some of you traveled a long ways. As I mentioned prior to this thing, people are passionate on both sides. And so I hope we all take that into consideration as we go forward. This committee thanks you. We appreciate your